So I'm so glad having you in my show today. I know we've been trying to arrange to have this, and you were in New York, and Sally with the fire in LA and so on. So I'm Jessie. So what's going on? Tell me.
Yeah.
And then I just saw your podcast, which we were just talking about it, The Sunny Side Up.
Yes.
And I felt bad because I was like, oh, wait, I didn't even like ask you if you're okay, what's going on, and so on. But you were saying you're fine.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. So tell me what's going on recently, what you're working on. And by the way, everyone, so I met Jessie at our mutual friend's house, Lisa, who's like a super like Pilates guru, and opened her MDR. I think that's what's it called, for her Pilates studio. Yep. And we were there for an event, and you were there like helping her like coordinate the events and so on. And it was great. So, and this is how I was like, I definitely want you to be on my show. Yeah. And then you also have a podcast. So tell us about that. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm so happy to be here.
I know we're both so busy.
We managed to get it together. So I'm really grateful to be here. And it was such a pleasure to be there at that event. And Lisa and I met through another event, and I love, the power of connection is everything, right? And it's so much of what I facilitate and what I teach, what I speak about. And even at that event, it was all about heart and connection, which was, I think, our point of connection at that point.
Because you're a coach, right?
Yes.
So is that... Well, I'm going to let you introduce because I have more. It's like every time when you say something, I was like, I have more question. I want to know more.
I love it.
So, so go on.
So, and then just regarding the podcast, I've relaunched. I used to have Sunny Side Up way back. Like it was like 2011, if you can imagine. I used to have a podcast.
Even before everybody had a podcast.
It was like the OG days. It was Blog Talk Radio. This was like literally like the earliest. I mean, it was very new at the time, and I loved it, and I missed it so much. And I ran it for years. I had over 300 episodes, some of the most amazing guests on, and great conversation. Initially, I was doing a lot of solo shows around the themes that I was coaching and speaking and teaching on. Yeah. And then I got into conversations with people, and I really loved just the dynamic energy that you get to experience with a podcast. And I actually pivoted and we can get into that after, but I wrote a book and built my other company, HeartRise, because the coaching initially when I was going to ask you that too. So Sunny Side Up was sort of the OG and podcast. And then when I paused, and I was doing a lot of the coaching, and it was all under sort of the umbrella of Jessie May, which is my name, and May is my middle name. Some people are curious. And Jessie May Wolfe is my full name. So I had Jessie May. Initially, it was inspired life coaching, then soul shine coaching. It was all about like lighting up the sort of the radiance of who we are, right? And that was a big part of what I love to do. And I was doing leadership coaching.
Can I just tell you do, definitely, because I also follow you on Instagram, and then I love to be like, it's just even the little thing you post. It really like, it's a good reminder, and it was so nice to see it, because sometimes you just need that. So I want you to keep posting, because because sometimes you leave like a poem, or sometimes it's like quote or anything you just thought was interesting, but I wanted to share this with you because I want you to know that sometime, I don't know why, or maybe it's meant to be, that I need to hear or be reminded of, and then your Instagram posts pop up, and then I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I needed, or that's exactly how I felt,
That's so beautiful to know. Thank you for that reflection.
I did tell you, because it's one of the posts that you did something about surrender.
Yes.
And then I sent you a message right away.
That's
and then I said, oh my God.
This is such an important theme, right? Yeah. Surrender is, and on that I'll say that, and thank you for saying that, because we need the reminders, we need the little reboots, because so often we can get caught up in our busy minds and in our head, and we lose touch with the essence of who we are in those moments that are really meaningful, and getting to reflect so often. And and I love a good quote tile, but when you unpack it, and that's partly why I love a podcast, because you can actually talk about some of the themes and some of the ideas. So surrender, for me, initially I always thought of surrender as sort of a giving up, or the way that we're taught about it typically is sort of a quitting. But actually what I believe is, and this was I think the quote I had shared, it was surrender is the bridge between acceptance and change.
And I love it. It was so beautiful. And then I remember I reached out to you right away. You can look at our message.
Yes.
And then I was like, oh my God, Jessie, this is exactly what I needed. This is what I'm working on, and I'm so glad that you posted. I don't know if it's like the new universe like telling you to tell me this or remind me. But definitely follow her Instagram handle. I'm gonna have your handle on our podcast. But
beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and it's such an important place to be able to share little nuggets, and and sort of a big part of what Sunny Side Up and my return to it is like bringing back some of the themes that are like ongoing themes in our life. This is sort of like, the heart of who we are themes that don't, it's like the same thing with physical exercise. We need emotional well-being in the same way that we need physical well-being. And it's not like you do it and you get there and you arrive and it's done, right? You're going to keep exercising your physical body. So our emotional well-being and our mental health is so important, and so that's a big part of what I've really dedicated my life to. And I have like a whole creative career too, which we can talk about, but I used to be in fashion and design and marketing and all that.
Look at what you look totally cool. I love your outfit. Even when I first met you, Lisa, so you dressed really well.
Oh, thank you, honey.
So I'm not surprised when you just bring that up.
Yeah, thank you. I
and then
that
brings me another question. Yeah. So you were in fashion, which obviously I can tell, but how that transferred or transform into coaching and more?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I always loved, I would say by nature, I'm sort of I love talking to people, learning about people, and in essence, a kind of coaching. Like I was sort of a big sister. I was a camp counselor. Like I was very inspired by nourishing people's dreams or inspiring people's dreams. So even as a creative entrepreneur myself, I like to see and stretch the edge of what was possible. I was always drawn to human stories and seeing how people had built and created things. And so when I did my clothing line, which was me sort of really stepping out and doing that, I loved it, but I didn't love the rat race of the industry. And a lot of industries are very in that sort of, timeline. Now things have shifted a lot, but it felt very much like I was designing a year out, I was selling 6 months out, and I was in the current season. And it was like there wasn't as much presence. And what I did love so much, I love the creative, so I still get to be creative, but what I missed was the connection piece. And so the coaching had always been sort of something that was just there in the background as something that I loved. And I had, even studied communications in university, and I really pursued some of those learnings and teachings. And I was just very fascinated by our human connection and our human story. And so when I learned that coaching was even an industry, it was sort of on the early cusp of when coaching really got it, because there was the possibility of being a therapist, which I'd even explored, but I was more interested in the idea of coaching, which for me was more about championing and cheering on someone's spirit, their gifts, their native talent, their light, what they're here to do and what they want to bring to the world. That excited me. But what I came to discover when I pivoted, and it was a big pivot, it was 2008, the economy was really hitting the shiz.
Yeah. And that's encouraged for you.
Yeah, it was a big...
So it was... I'm assuming it was because it was so strong, right? That feeling, that calling was so strong for you.
It really was.
You completely changed your career.
It was such a left turn, and it really was, and it was a big pivot, and it felt like the right thing to do, though, because I was really. I had seen that there were opportunities to get into coaching, and so I decided to just take that leap. I came to California at the time because I had been living in London, and I've lived in different parts of the world, but I'm from Montreal, and I came out here initially. I wanted to sort of give it a go with the coaching, but I decided to dive right in. And I have to say, I remember getting my first client on the plane. I was that person who connects with people in a grocery line. I just love the human spirit. I'm curious. I'm open. I love to connect with others. And I just remember thinking, if I'm going to make a go of this, I have to really dive in. And I got into the coaching. And what I came to discover, which is it segues into how HeartRise was born and back to Sunny Side Up, but was that so many people were blocked emotionally. So even the most amazing creative entrepreneurs, because that's who I was drawn to and who were attracted to me as clients, because we tend to attract what we are, right?
Yes. Yourself was an entrepreneur. You have your own fashion line.
Right.
And the fact that you take the risk to completely change another career.
Yeah.
Not that, and that's not stereotyping, but most entrepreneurs have that risk-taking thing.
Yeah.
They just we're going
to switch. You got to leap. It's that's it.
I noticed. That's what I noticed when people would, they tend to more high risk taker.
High risk taker. It's very true, actually. Yeah. That's so true. And, the root of courage is cœur or corps, which is heart in Latin or French. And it's like, to have courage, you really have to have heart. You have to be brave. And I agree. I think it's something that doesn't mean that you don't have fear, because I don't think there's such a thing as being fearless, but it's like leaning in and knowing there's more to uncover, more to discover. So when I was doing this coaching, I realized a lot of people were holding a lot. And in order to create or build what they wanted to build with their life or with their business or with their whatever it was that they wanted to pursue, I just found there was a lot of blockages. So the coaching evolved into really studying the human heart. So I really took different...
I like that. Study the human heart.
Yeah, and it was beyond just sort of like the idea of like the hallmark heart, because we hear about the heart, but we're not really taught that it's an intelligent source. I mean, more and more now, thankfully, people are catching up. Yeah. And since everything has just been... a little unsteady on the planet, I think we're looking more to resources and wellness practices, and emotional intelligence is becoming more prevalent, thankfully.
Because you were saying our heart is also a brain, right?
It is. Yeah. There's a whole heart intelligence. There's a heart brain now, and there's a whole state of coherence that we can cultivate when we get the head and the heart operating together. So from the coaching, I really started to study different modalities and train in different modalities. Heart math was one of the formative ones that I did, because I was drawing from a lot of their science, because I was noticing that the most, like you're saying, courageous people that really lean in and step into something have a sense of coherence and courage and connectedness to themselves, right? They're not just like forcing, it's more coming from a place of flow and like creative flow. And it doesn't mean that there's not fear, but it's like, you just feel the synergy, right? You feel
and then that's what I was going to say, because most people I interview are entrepreneurs, and they're always, all hours are the same, right? It's not like there's 26-hour a day.
Right.
I mean, it's 24 hours.
That's right.
But like when I interview them, their life is just as busy as me and yours.
That's right.
But somehow they don't seem tired to me. I'm like, you're not exhausted? Like all the stuff to do?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I believe that when we're doing what we really love and we're in resonance with it, it feels like we have a more abundant energy and we're more in flow, versus if we're forcing or we're pushing and we're trying to make something work, it's exhausting. Quite literally, right? It can burn us out. So I became super curious, and I started to really uncover like the wisdom of the heart. And HeartRise was this method that I developed through my practice working with others and watching what was happening, and through a lot of the science I was studying. So I studied the science. I also studied different modalities, from Reiki to shamanism, like different modalities. And I was very fascinated by energetics. Both sides. I was like, if I'm going to do this, I want to really like see the whole gamut of the heart.
I love that, because for some people, if you just talk about the Reiki, the shamanism,
the woo-woo, they're like, no.
I was going to say.
They're like, no thanks.
Yeah, they're going to be like, oh, you're a little bit out there, right?
Exactly. And I was working with groups of, some of it evolved into working with corporate and schools, and so to be able to go in and work with a group of architects, they weren't going to buy into the energetics per se. I mean, now there's more energetic science even to support that, but I was able to drop some real heart science on them, which was exciting. So I really felt like it was important to have some of that in the mix, and there is a lot more available now that is remarkable. So I studied the human heart and all of its capacity, and then this 4-step method that is essentially, it's a meditation method, HeartRise, so it gets you out of your head and into your heart. And now we're actually doing more work with education, because we were talking about that a little bit.
We did a little meditation at Lisa's house.
Exactly.
There was like 20-something more women at that house that day. And there was like a workout session. There was a breath work session. And then you actually close the events with a really peaceful, very nice meditation at the end. So I love that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, it's interesting because, I've used my voice over the course of my life in different capacities, but when I really started to use it for meditation and in my coaching, a lot of people really responded in a way that I believe the voice is a vehicle, and the voice is the bridge, quite literally, between our heart and our head. So you can really feel when someone is coming from an honest place, an authentic place, a passionate place. And so I do the guided meditation, but I also help people unlock and connect their head to their heart, and vice versa, because that's so much what the practice is. So it's a 4-step method. It helps you unlock and alchemize what you're holding, to surrender ultimately, to witness what needs to move through you, so you can come back to flow, which is a state you can be in. And it's this heart coherence that you can cultivate so that you're able to, it doesn't mean life isn't happening and it's not chaotic, because Lord knows we're all going through it right now, but it's how do I respond and not react, right? Because when we're reacting, we're holding a lot of unmetabolized stuff, right? So whereas when we're in flow, or we're more present and we're more able and deeply rooted within, we can just respond to life and not be holding it all. I mean, I call it this emotional constipation, when you're holding a lot of stuff. I mean, road rage is a perfect example, right?
Do you see a lot of your clients? I mean, you did say a lot. You saw a lot of people holding on to your emotions, like an emotional block, right? It's
so common. It's so common. Everyone, I mean, everyone does, really, like, because we're not taught to feel, right? Like, we're like, feel only the good feelings, but like, don't admit or don't acknowledge our pain or sadness, you know, like, we're taught from a young age, like, you know, in particular in the masculine, but this is for kids, but boys don't cry, you know, all these like mindset things that really teach us, like, crying is weak, or to show anger or pain. Like, we have to metabolize what we're feeling in order to heal it and move through it, and to cultivate that strength and courage. It's really important.
I mean, do you have male clients that...
I do. And I've done a lot of work with men's groups as well, which I find is so meaningful and important, because you can actually cultivate greater courage and strength by harnessing that heart power. And it's a resilience, and it has a capacity to, you know, I love working with youth because the kids really get it. You know, depending on the age, we talk about their magic power and like plugging into that and listening. And it's an intuitive wisdom too. I mean, there's so much I could say about the heart, but there is this capacity that we all have to know who we are and to tune into that. And when we plug into that, we're really powerful, and we're coached out of that, or we're taught out of that, or we're trained out of that from a young age. And so often it's passed on generationally, right? The parents don't know, so they teach the kid to, like, you know, put a smile on it when we're not feeling the smile, and all of these, right?
Yeah. I was raised that way.
Yeah, it's so common. You know? Oh my God,
it was almost like if I was crying, when I was little, like my parents would be
crying.
Like,
get it together, like, exactly.
And then it's almost like you get punished for being sad,
for feeling, right? And it's our natural. It actually it helps regulate the nervous system to cry. Like, it's actually very healing to cry, and we resist it and we hold back, and we wonder what dis-ease is. So often it's unmetabolized, unresolved emotional body within that we haven't learned how to integrate.
So with your male client, I know you were also doing that. I mean, did you see the transformation with those men? Yeah. And was it harder on them to do that?
Well, it takes a level of courage to be even willing to, like, touch the heart, so to speak, you know, because most people don't like the idea of, like, opening the heart, or, like, imagine going into, like, even corporate, pre-COVID, by the way, post-COVID, very different, because everyone post-COVID, well, you know, people are just more receptive to solution because everyone was sort of like overwhelmed with everything. But, you know, to bring in something with the word heart into a corporate setting is not obvious, right? Because corporate tends to be like very like, keep your personal life at home. Don't bring it into the office. Like it's very much the same mindset as that programming for kids, right? So now we know that we're much more integrated beings, and we're just so much more capable of showing up if we're not just like leaving all compartmentalizing, which is totally toxic, by the way. We're also taught to compartmentalize, right?
Because actually you get rewarded for that.
Oh, I know. And we revere busy and all these things that are so toxic for our systems. But really, when you bring the heart online and you get it enrolled in the practice, it's amazing how the head and the heart can work together as a team. So coming back to your question, men initially can maybe have a little bit of resistance, but you know, one of my favorite groups, I worked with this men's group, and it was a group of men in recovery. So they were addicts, and they were, you know, and they had come out. And it was awesome. Really one of the most beautiful experiences. I worked with them for 3 years. I actually I volunteered my time, and it was I got them a beautiful space because they were going to have to do it in like their TV room. And I was like, no, we're going to do this right. And I remember, and they were getting credits in order to sort of like reach a point where they could be released, because it was sort of like almost like a halfway, you know, between recovery and being back out in the world. And it was honestly so rewarding because we always sit in circle, because that's part of the rhythm and the balance of the heart too. It's not like me at the front and my disciple. It's like we're all holding heart space, kind of like we did even at Lisa's at the event. And the circle is very much a part of coherence and balance, and it's not about one person knowing it all. It's really about this cohesion. And seeing these grown men just open and share and heal together was like the most remarkable. And one of my favorites, I'll give a shout out to my Marco, who I'm still in touch with. He was a war vet, and he had tried every kind of healing and therapy and had PTSD from Iraq. And it's such a beautiful story. And he came and he would sit in circle every Friday morning with me. And it was about 3 months. And by the end, he just thanked me, and he gave me his Wounded Warrior bracelet, and he said, "Thank you for restoring my honor and giving me my heart back," in front of the whole group of grown men. And it was like not a dry eye. It was just the most rewarding experience. I know. It was very special. And then to take it another level, the following year, because he has 4 kids, he went back to his wife and his kids who he had been estranged from. And he came back, and actually in Malibu, at Malibu Soho House, one of my favorite partners, where I facilitate and speak and do events.
Yeah.
I was doing a workshop there, and his wife surprised me with his daughter who was going to camp, and they came and showed up as a surprise. I'd never met them, and they came to the workshop, and they shared who they were. And again, so the story got a whole other layer of, just impact, because they were like, "Thanks for bringing, my husband, my father back," like. So that's the power of the heart. And it was his courage to be willing to lean into his own heart, and that's, and so look, men are programmed, and I won't even go into what's currently happening right now in the world, but I feel like the bravest among them are the ones who are willing to lean in. And it's not soft to be in your heart, it's strong. Another quote from my Instagram that I often share is that your softness is your strength. When we can learn to soften and be tender with ourselves and true and honor what we're feeling, you can build resilience. So it's like you let the feelings move through you and you build fortitude. It's only by holding them that we're totally reactive, and then we're not regulated, right? Like,
oh my God, this is really good. This is like a download for me, because I think we were trained, or we were taught that the strength comes from being strong, like an armor.
That's right.
Holding the fortress.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
But you just completely change that. Yeah. The softness is actually strength.
It is, and it's a reorientation, and it's an agility, right? Being agile. We know how much we need to be agile right now in these very tender, chaotic times, right? So agility is the capacity to move and dance with life, because it's always happening and we can't control it. Back to surrender, right?
Back to surrender, because the whole time I was trained in ways to be structure. Right. Like almost like a warrior army. Yeah. Well, I love that you said that, because I have a whole passage in my book, High on Heart, it's the HeartRise method in a book, and I talk about structure and flow, and structure and space. So it's helpful to have structure, but you want to be able to flow within it. So it's not about having no structure. You can have vision. Like the masculine, feminine energy. Exactly. And it's a balance. Oh, I love that. Yeah. And it's important to have both, right? So we do still need some capacity to sort of have structure, but it's, being able to be, again, agile and capable of recognizing that, yes, structure can help, but we need to be able to pivot, to change, to adjust. And when we're moving the energy and we're not holding it, because that's when we're rigid, right? Yeah. Rigid things break. Yeah. Soft things are malleable and more fluid and capable of transformation. I love it. Yeah. Did you talk about this in your book? I did. Yeah. Okay. It's the whole method in a book, and it's really fun because it's something that you can just pop open and get like a little nugget. I have a few of my friends and clients who tell me they just use it almost like an oracle, where they just pop it open in the morning, because they're little passages. I didn't even see it. I know. I'm going to, I'll share it with you. I'm actually out of the print run, but the digital editions are available. So we'll make sure that I have the audio, because a lot of people like listening to. I do. Yeah. And then I'm driving everywhere. Oh my God, I'm with you. I'm like audible. Right? Yeah. So the audio, and then there's also the digital, so like the PDF, like the digital PDF version too, the Kindle. So please send it. I will. Everybody can. Yeah. Because I really like what you just said. So I was like, and then like I said, I really like what you post on Instagram. So if your book is kind of like, you know how you said it's like a little nugget, which is perfect. Because when you're so busy, and that's not an excuse. Like sometimes you just want that little piece of
Yes.
Well,
yes.
And that's all you need.
Yes.
You know, it kind of just changed your perspective that day.
That's
your
right.
mindset.
That's right. And it can actually shift your whole like frequency too, right? So exactly. It can really. And so coming full circle now, what I've come back to, and so with HeartRise, we're really focused a lot on education and youth and bringing back these circles, which I used to do. Like now when I think about my schedule, again, it's a lot of people reference pre and post COVID because there's just so much that pivoted on the planet. But prior to COVID, I did a lot in person. Now I'm doing a lot more virtually just because so many people are in transit, moving.
Yeah.
You know, the workplace has changed a lot too. There's just a lot of pivoting. And so the beauty is you can plug into these circles. And so we do them. And just for anyone listening too, if you have a community or a group that you want to bring a HeartRise circle to, I have 30 facilitated leaders now in the practice too that can bring it. And they can come in, and we're doing more trainings too, because so many people have been asking and saying like, we want to hold space because we need more of that right now. Like I really believe in heart resilience and heart intelligence, and I've seen it and the impact of what it can do for our lives. And it's so needed right now on the planet.
I love that. So people can just plug it in, and then it can be virtual. Right?
Exactly. So if you had, let's say, even if you, like had a group of, women, or if you wanted, we're doing youth work too now. So like, it's amazing to see what happens. And just,
how old is the kids that you?
I've worked with as young. I was called back to the elementary school I went to, St. George's, I'll give a little shout out. And it was so beautiful because they'd been tracking my career. And so they brought me back in to work with, and my niece was there. It was so special. And I did it in like the old gym that I used to play basketball as a kid. And it was so fun. And so I've worked with kids as young as elementary, even younger, just like friends and family, like little kids that get it. But they feel the authenticity, right? Kids, I often say kids and animals are more attuned to heart frequency than we are, right? Because we're so busy in our heads exactly. And analysis is emotional paralysis. So if we're busy analyzing, we're holding.
I'm constantly digging.
Right?
I'm like, oh my God, that's me, because I'm constantly like seeing all this stuff I need to do, like. Right. Should I do this? Should I do blah, 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 blah? And people always say, listen to your heart. Yeah. And then I don't know why I don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll send you, and I'll offer too that I do have a lot of the guided meditations that people can do too, just to listen and slow down and connect in. And it's really like a frequency recalibration. It's really powerful to be able to, in the same way when we listen to, the reason sound baths now are so popular is there's a reason, right? But listening,
I'm
you love, okay, yeah.
I need to do that almost like every day.
Amazing, yeah. So sound and frequency, there's a real healing frequency to sound and music that really can help to recalibrate us. So the guided meditations that I have really kind of get you back into the heart space.
So how's the kids, like the elementary school kids,
how do they respond?
How they respond to this?
Well, I tend to use different. Oh my God, I love it. I know. Well, as we were talking about it before, I was like, it would be great. I simplify some of the metaphors and the steps when I'm working with youth. So they do respond because, giving them relatable tools that connect them to their, like, this is like their power source. If you really help them to understand that they have agency and that they can be even stronger, it's a shift in how we address the conversation. Like, I wouldn't be having the same kind of conversation with a 10-year-old, but letting them understand that they have a real power. And then if you share with them how it can help them be stronger, be more patient, like giving them some of the outcomes that a 10-year-old desires, and then they start to practice. And I have to say, like, the kids do relax from the sound experience. So just like, yeah, oh no, I do. It's amazing. Actually, I witnessed my little niece, who I adore. She likes to listen to mine. She's like, I want to fall asleep to your voice. And it's like,
how lucky is she?
Yeah, it's very sweet. So
the kids actually also respond very well.
They do. Okay. They really do. Yeah. And it's really, I feel like, it's a simplified version, like I was saying, but it's quite amazing. And we'll use the metaphor. One of the structures that I work with is the garden, and because it's that's for the younger kids. When they're a little bit older, like the teens, we use more relevant experiences, and if they're a little preteen, which now the preteen are advancing more quickly too with everything they're so exposed to. But giving them real-time examples too really helps, you know, so making it practical. That's what I like. It's not just this kind of woo-woo concept of heart. It really is like there's practical tools within it that help you to notice, okay, the situation's arising. How is it making me feel? Like you start to question these things and notice, and then you can move through it and arrive back at flow, and that there's an ease with it that they like the feeling of. And then once you practice more ease, it becomes easier to come back to. So it's almost like a state, a frequency shift, like your whole embodiment. And then like the same way when we work out, we feel better, you know, with practice for kids, it helps to relax them, and they like that feeling.
So you've been doing that with school. I mean, I'm asking as a mom, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure all my mommy audience wanted to know, like, this is so amazing that if we want our kids to try it, how we do that?
Yeah, well, I love that. I mean, so we are bringing it into schools in general, so anyone can reach out directly because I have amazing facilitators. We're doing it in French and English, and actually I have someone now in Spain who wants to bring it there, and we have some people that are trained who are bilingual or trilingual, actually, who speak Spanish.
Europe also, like, they're so open to it. Why
well, they are, right? Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And I feel like it's because it's a simple 4-step method, and schools now, I mean, they need it more than ever. So it's like, if it helps to regulate the kids, a lot of these schools are open. We're also bringing it in for anyone who's listening and interested to like after school programs, summer programs. There are all these like much more modern approaches to school and just programming for kids now. So there's also a lot of immersive opportunities. So we can do like weekend immersions, we can do ongoing groups. There's a lot of different ways that we're...
So how we do that? Do we just reach out to you?
Yeah, if you reach out through, we have an inquiry. I have a little discovery section on the HeartRise site, and we can send a link out too for anyone to book a call, and we can share the different ways. Like we're either coming into schools directly, or we're working with like a parent who wants to bring us in. Oftentimes too, we're getting a group, like if you had, let's say 12 moms and you wanted to get them together, because what we found is working with the schools is one thing, but what we learned, a lot of layers. Well, there's a lot of the bureaucracy, but also what we've come to understand is if we only reach the kids, in fact, I've found this through the teachers, because the teachers love the work so much that they've sat into the work and they've benefited from it. And then we started to realize if we get the kids and the teachers, but we don't get the parents, then we're missing the beat, because they're not able to then bring it into the home.
To practice,
so it's like you need the integration on all levels. So which is great though, because that I've done workshops with like parents and kids. I've done weekend workshops, so that's another really fun way to do it. So it can be
because we have a lot of business and also business organization. They have like mommy and daughter group, or father and daughter group. So it would. I'm sure. I mean, I find it very helpful, and I'm so intrigued by it. And then the next group I'm in, or when we have a retreat, I definitely want
bring it. I'd be happy to.
Because and then most our kids, when we do this mommy and daughter trip or mommy and son trip, the kids are old enough; they're at least in elementary school age. Where
perfect.
Your service would be
perfect for it. Yes, and in that kind of context, if it's like a retreat or a workshop environment, they're even more receptive. I mean, and the beauty is that can activate. What will often happen is that, and then they'll move into, like, it can be an ongoing thing. So we could do like a retreat, and then oftentimes they'll want to continue with a weekly circle or a monthly circle, so that it's like having that same sense of community. And I feel like right now, especially on the planet, there's a real need for that.
So I love community because I feel like it makes you, I mean, we are not meant to be alone.
I know.
Right? And then so what everything's going on with social media and stuff like that. Even with dating, because I'm single, I would tell you, even with dating, it's actually much harder because there's no actual connection and the interaction with it, because everything just like text or whatever, right? But if it's not like with your heart with able to bond.
100%. No. And it's often like the filter is a metaphor, but it's like a literal filter. People are just like, it's ironic because I have a section in my book called The Masquerade, and it's like, this was pre-COVID, but like the idea of putting a mask on, so often people are not being their true self. So to your point, like what we really all long for, I mean, in the simplest way, the best thing anyone could take away from today is, we're all longing to be known, to be seen, to be heard. heard, to be held. Like that's, and so many people feel alone and feel disconnected.
Yeah, I mean, okay, for science, data.
Yeah.
Did a study and research, people nowadays actually feel more alone than before.
Yeah. 100%. And as a result, in fact, I spoke at a suicide prevention summit, which was so healing and beautiful. I mean, it's just devastating to see even the number now. The suicide rates are high.
And it's also little kids now.
Oh,
it's not just adults.
That's what's so frightening. So it's like that notion that we think that we're the only one feeling alone, but actually it's the most common scenario for a lot of people. And the thing is, we're connected virtually, but we're not, and through social, but we're not actually openly sharing what we're living through. And that's a good point. Right? When we do, it just...
Because we have so many way of like reaching each other, communication. Yeah. But communication doesn't mean that bonding, heartfelt.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's easy for me to send you a text back.
That's
you can call and just like... There's so many ways you can text.
That's
even like dating, it was like, do you want to text each other back on this dating app or Instagram? Or what? There's so many apps.
Oh my God. No, 100%. And by the way, for the dating, I've done a lot of dating and relating coaching and workshopping too, by the way. And what I shared, in fact, some of my private clients, I'm a registered officiant too for weddings. I've officiated a few weddings just on the fly for clients, but because I help them call in their partner, and then they asked me to marry them. So I've done, and I love it. It's really beautiful.
Wait, you calling their partner?
Well, helping them find their person by doing the inner work and then attracting their,
Oh, wow. See, there's more thing I have to talk about.
It's all heart, right? But coming back to that, what I was going to offer. It's
back to heart.
Back to heart, right? So if we're not in our heart and we're showing more of a presenting like who we think we want to be or who we think they want us to be, then we're not in that resonance, right? We're not in real authentic connection with someone, and that's the only way, because usually we hear and we learn that it's like 6 months in the honeymoon phase, and then all of a sudden you really learn who the person is, right? But it's like better to just show them who you are to start before. But what I was going to offer you, and this is a really powerful tool, when I was doing a lot of online dating myself, I always use, I do audios with you. When we first started chatting, I'm like an audio nut, which is why I love this format. But audio message is the way to connect with someone, because if you leave an audio message on the apps and all the apps have it now, right away you can tell a lot more about someone, and oftentimes they won't respond with an audio, but if they do, it shows a level of courage and bravery, you're right, because if they don't, it's because they're judging their own voice, or for whatever reason they don't feel comfortable enough. God. So there's that. But then the next step I would recommend is to get on a call, because so often you can save yourself an in-person meeting by talking to someone, because voice and energy, and you feel someone, and they might look a certain way, but you talk to them and you're like, ooh, not so much, or you're like, oh, they sound like really genuine and yummy,
Yeah, and then sometimes it's not just a superficial look,
That's
right?
Just
with this filter, with what you're trying to impress other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good idea, lady, single lady.
Yes.
So we're talking about what's good for the mommy group, and then
That's
now
right.
The single lady.
That's right.
So voice text.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Now the dating app, you
can even leave a voice prompt on some of the apps.
Also, on Instagram, 100%. Like how sometimes I try to DM you, and you're like, who's this person like following
That's
you?
right. Yeah.
Okay, so Sunny Side Up.
Yes.
I know you started way back then before even just podcasting became popular, where everybody have a podcast now.
Yeah.
But what made you decide to do it, and then why you stopped? Well, I'm glad you came
back. Why am I bringing it back?
Yeah.
So, I did it for years. I loved it. I think it was 5 or 6 years, and I did hundreds of episodes. Then when HeartRise was born and I stepped into that, it was pretty much a full-time gig. Like, I was building the practice, I was building the method, writing the book, touring, traveling, and doing a lot of speaking and facilitating with that. So I put Sunny Side Up on pause. I launched High on Heart, which was another podcast, which was a lot of the same themes, but really tied specifically to HeartRise and the method and the practice. And I loved doing that, and that was amazing. I did that for years. Then I think midway through COVID, I was running 3 leadership trainings. I was doing, You know, so much corporate. I was just doing a lot at the time, and I just felt like, okay, I needed to just take a moment to like recenter and choose what is the most important way to be moving forward to impact the most amount of, the people that I really feel called to, and also make sure that I'm recharging my battery and all of those things. And so coming back to, it was actually one of my OG listeners that was like one of my dearest, I'll give her a shout out, Victoria, who I love. And she's like, it feels like coming back to Sunny Side Up, because I was doing a lot of speaking and a lot of sharing and a lot of facilitating and the coaching and developing HeartRise education. But Sunny Side Up was kind of the source of me shifting from. I love the name. Thank you. And
it's just the name itself make me happy.
Thank you.
It just kind of
it elevates a little, right?
Exactly. It was like Sunny Side Up. Like when I was reading it, and then I was like, I'm gonna listen to it. I'm like, okay, it just makes me in
brings you a little booster. Yeah. Okay, good. I thank you, because that was kind of my intention. It was just like to let it be a weekly little, like your weekly dose of sunshine. Like, but a lot of the themes that we've been talking about. So it's like a little theme for the week. I'm keeping the shows under 30 minutes so that it's, on average, I'd say they're 15.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like a Sunday, Sunny Side Up, just splash into your week with intention and have just like a little.
Just like your Instagram post.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah. So that was kind of, so the real vision was to come back to it as, and having had many more years now of even experience in the space and just working with others and feeling like we need that recalibration on the regular in a weekly way. So it felt like a nice return back to the heart of why I started.
I'm so happy that you decided to bring it back.
Thank you.
No, this is good.
I've missed it, so it feels really yummy. Like I'm really enjoying the recordings.
Well, I find it very interesting, but now I have to say you just add another thing on my list that I need to check it out, which is your book. And then I can't wait, because I like I said, I love the fact you say the perfect word for it, like nugget.
Nugget.
That's what I mean. You know what I mean? So you just want to taking to look for it. But so that's come back. So because your listener reminded you, so you bring it back.
Well, I knew I wanted to come back with the podcast, but I was going to go back to High on Heart, which was the name of the book. But it was one of my she's a dear friend. She's also a HeartRise leader, and she's a best friend, known me for years. And she just said, and she's one who calls me Sunshine. Sunshine, I have a few nicknames. One of them I don't like to use in this context because it's Mama Fuego, and with all the fires, I'm very reluctant to say that. But that was another term that people were calling me. And Sunshine. So a lot of these, and Radiance. I mean, I do Radiance coaching, Radiance speaking. So Sunshine felt natural to come back to, and I feel like we need more sunshine. And it's not just like the sort of, rainbows and sparkles. It's like sunshine, like the radiance of who we are. It's like activating that aliveness.
Like I said,
and it just felt right.
It fit you perfectly. I could see the sunshine. They give you the inkling of that, and then I know because it's with a recent fire thing, but I can see that. Yeah. And then it also matched perfectly. And then I also like the name of your podcast, because it does bring up the vibration, just like even saying, looking at it brings a little bit positive vibe to it. Yeah. So would this like be your new project right now, or are you still thinking there's going to be other project you're working on?
Well,
not that you don't have enough.
No. Well, Sunny Side Up is kind of like my weekly almost meditation and way of coming home to my heart and rebooting and refreshing and replenishing myself and all those that I serve. So it feels like an important place to kind of just be in that heart space on the weekly. So that feels like a really beautiful, something that's a big part of my like current state right now. HeartRise, as I mentioned, we're rebooting the circles. So we're doing a lot with that and the different leaders in different places and spaces. And the HeartRise education piece is also something that we're developing and partnering with different organizations, schools, moms, anyone who feels like they want to bring more heart to their kids and more of this resilience that we're talking about and intelligence. Yeah. And the other project that I'm also involved in, which has really been we're at 1 year now, is I called in an amazing partner, someone who I initially had actually met when we were looking to do PR for the book, funny enough. And I wanted more of an event PR agency, but I really liked her energy. Again, the vibes don't lie. I have a workshop I teach called that. And we just had a really strong resonance. And I was reaching out to her because I was invited to do a women's event for Malibu Soho, which is a longtime client and partner of mine. And he called me in, and I was just really sort of reflecting on how did I want to do this and what did it look like. And a big theme through HeartRise actually that has been prevalent for me is this idea of like bridging worlds. I'll often say HeartRise is a bridge between different generations, different geographies, and different in like within an industry, different departments. So when we were doing corporate, it was like, you know, the sales team doesn't talk to the marketing team, doesn't talk to the tech team, doesn't talk to the operations. You know, it's all very disconnected. So HeartRise was like a bridge to connect in terms of communication. And this idea of bridging is something, since I took a little bit of that pause from the podcast, I was reflecting a lot of writing, and just really tuning into what my truth was. And this idea of bridging worlds and bridging and connecting felt very important to me. And I just found like there were so many amazing people I knew, like yourself, and people that I've met over my lifetime and through my work and my practice and my speaking and my coaching. And I was like, it's not about creating a new thing. It's about bridging worlds. And so,
I like that.
Right? And like bridging, because it's like, we don't need to start another thing. There's so many amazing things out there. I was like, how can, you know, I be more of a bridge? And so I reached out my arm to this amazing woman who I love and who I loved what she was doing in the sustainability space. And I just liked her spirit. And I wanted to do it as a bridge, also not solo. And I invited her in for this Women's Day event and had this vision to celebrate different voices and visions, these beacons as we call them. And so we had 7 amazing women share and their stories, their journeys, their light, bridging worlds. And that's been evolving. So we do a monthly group with that, and we're doing some in person. We have a membership we just launched. So that's called The Bridge. So it's a really beautiful community, and I recommend anyone who's interested and it's really like leadership women too. It's not just like another women's community. It's really powerful women that are bridging and bringing their...
So the community called The Bridging.
It's called The Bridge,
The Bridge. Yeah. And then so there's, so you guys share experience and meet once a month.
Once a month, there's an event that's virtual, and there's also little breakouts, so you get to connect with the other women. It's a really great community. It's like the people that you want to hang out with, you know? So that's been happening. And I do a lot with women's work as well. As you know, with Lisa, we've been working on a whole series of events too. So I feel like women and youth are where my heart is right now as that's like a strong, I mean, I love everybody. I love animals. I almost brought Luna, who you met, my dog. But I really feel like right now the pulse of my heart is being called in that direction.
Okay. Well, like I said, you know, like I meet people and then we have the same 24-hour. Nobody have less and more. Yeah. But when you're doing something, that's your calling and your passion. You just don't get tired. You're really excited about it.
That's true. And it brings me so much joy. And I do love the coaching. With Sunny Side Up, I've also come back to more of the private coaching. And so if anyone feels, you know, called or wants to dive deeper, whether it's for love, relationship, for, you know, the 3 areas I would say is like the creative vision stuff. So I do like brand alchemy because I have a ton of experience with that. So I help them kind of cultivate their vision.
You just give us a little tip.
Love alchemy. Yeah. Love alchemy, relational, and then the personal, which is the inner work. So those are the 3 arenas within the coaching. And speaking too. I love speaking at events. I'm like, actually, we're doing a women's event with Lululemon and the Now Massage, Lisa, who Lisa. So so I do a lot of speaking, and I love that on different topics. I have a whole menu of themes and topics that I share on all around the heart.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. For sure, my number one right now is the blog because I can't wait.
Yay! We'll have to do an event together too. There's lots in store.
I know, and then I really enjoy the kids thing, and then so I can't wait for all your project coming up, and then I'm sure it's going to be amazing. And you're helping a lot of people.
Thank you.
And then I think that's what I enjoy to share, like the resource for other women or just anybody who needed it, right?
Yeah.
So we always ask every guest in our show like the same question.
Yeah.
And then by looking at your career history from fashion into coaching, and now you trying to like build a community of amazing women helping them. Like, did you ever thought you were gonna go this route? I mean, like, what would you give the younger version of yourself advice on? Would you give yourself like the advice when you were going into fashion and thinking about changing another career? Obviously, you have some fear, or I don't, if you do. Yeah. Like, what would be the advice for you to the younger self of you if you were thinking about changing career?
Yeah. I would say to stay curious. Because I think too often in that same way we were talking before about like the rigid, when we're too in our head, we're often not curious or open. So staying open and curious, and also stretching ourselves by connecting and with the curiosity, asking and engaging in new conversation. So getting a little bit outside of like the normal sphere that you might choose to be in. Because I feel like when we listen to new things, when we have new conversations, all of that, like podcasts are a great way to do that, but just to be open to new ideas and new ways of showing up in life and new ways of creating, because everything right now can seem overwhelming, but it's also a very exciting time to be alive and there's so much potential. So know that you can craft anything. And I would say the root of that is listening to our heart. So if you lean in and really anchor in your heart, it doesn't mean it's all going to be perfect, but it certainly means that you'll be aligned with what's true for you. And, you may fumble along the way, but it means that you can really find a place that feels safe within. And if you can keep coming back to that, you always find the kind of resilience that these times are calling us to. So.
Back to heart.
Yeah, back to the heart and staying curious and being playful. Like, know that it's okay. You don't have to have it. Perfection doesn't exist. We all think that perfection is this thing to revere.
Oh my God.
But it's like really, it's like nobody's perfect. And it feels really like I remember the first workshop I ever led, it was like in front of my mom and my sisters and all my friends at one of my good friends' restaurants. And I had all my notes and everything was so perfect. And it was, or I thought it was, and it was a disaster. It was like, this was many, many years ago, like 15 years ago now. And I honestly, it was even more than that. And I was terrible because I was so in my head.
It's so funny you mentioned this because yesterday is my app launch.
Yes.
And the day before, I can't find my engineer. And I was like, the lunch party is the next day. And then I don't have the app ready on Google Play. So I was freaking out, but I was trying to be calm about it. I'm like, so literally I grab a chair of the restaurant. I step on the chair and I just say, I'm a perfectionist. And I think a lot of you can resonate with me that it's really scary to put out something when I know it's not perfect. But here he is.
Good for you. And how beautiful. And I'm sure that touched everyone's heart in such a beautiful way.
Wow. I can receive from you guys, all my friends and family.
Honey.
Is to accept my imperfection to be professional.
Oh, how beautiful. That's so beautiful. That's really
I was
beautiful.
Freaking out. I didn't even tell anybody. I didn't even tell my team. I was like, I'm just going to.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I really love that you did that. And that gives others permission too, right? To like know that that's okay. And it also, that vulnerability, that tenderness calls in even greater support, right? Because we realize, nobody is perfect. And it's not something healthy to strive for. And we're taught to strive for that, right? But it's such a beautiful thing you were able to do that. Oh, honey, that's touching.
Oh, thank you. I didn't call anyone. I was freaking out. I told my sister only, and she was really mad for me. She's like, I'm mad at him for you. I was like, I can't be mad right now. I just need to figure something out.
That's right. At this moment. That's right. What a beautiful solution, though. Just to be honest and to be real, right? And that's part of the spirit of that, just like really just like playing and just, experiencing life. Like we get too caught up in sort of like trying to control, right? That's another surrender example, right?
I'm telling you.
It's like,
there's
boom.
There's a reason why I saw your post.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we met. Because that was something I need to learn and struggling with. So thank you.
Beautiful.
Well, I'm so glad you came to the show.
Oh, me too. What a treat.
We definitely need to catch up.
Yes,
and then
we
need to talk about the kids thing.
We do.
I love that.
We do. Yes. I would love that. Thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure. Really a treat. Okay. I loved it.